one needs to invest in world-class content and infrastructure. I mean, from the time we were used to watching DD News, to the time that we saw CNN for the first time, to now so many news channels. But I think we need to take the next leap now.
Yeah. Get out of this whole breaking news competition, I think.
Yeah.
You have to go more in depth, have more features, I think.
Have more
rather
features.
Than just all this.
And the research that we do, I mean, it's just about breaking news that people try to do.
Yeah.
And some of the breaking news
It's like
and
makes you
also
break your head out
sensationalize these
sometimes.
news. And also sensationalize. It might be a small tiny thing, but they'll make it as if it's the biggest thing that's happened for the day. Because even when I think Jim Horrocks was here from BBC, he mentioned that that there's a lot of sensationalism in all the Indian channels.
So which is why, if you look at it, I'm sorry to say this, but any issue that is raised, there is so much of noise when that issue is happening. And then after that it dies down, nobody follows it through.
Short
Because
lifespan.
everybody is looking for that viewership share or whatever I'm saying. Those are business compulsions.
Story of the moment.
Story of the moment.
Flash up.
Which is just not getting concluded as a country. We are just raising issues, kicking up a lot of dirt, but not bringing it to any conclusion. And I think to some extent even the press is responsible for it. I'm just saying that, for example, the Nirbhaya episode happened. There was so much of media attention there. I think one of the fundamental issues with Delhi is that it does not have a good public transport system, which is why everything happened. Who is talking about it? And I think somebody should follow through and ensure that there is safety when people are out on the streets and using public transport in that city. So I think everybody is going for readership, viewership and those kind of metrics, which is why there is an impact, and people are definitely aware that media has its own strengths. But I think in terms of this responsibility of bringing things to a conclusion, it's just not happening. And that's left open in large parts of our country. Even when you look at issues just get raised and don't get closed. So what is the point?
How do you look at Satyameva Jayate?
As a show?
Yeah.
I
Meaning
think so.
as the format of the show.
Beautiful. I mean, it really fills you with a lot of sort of a sense of urgency to change things. And it just strikes a chord in your heart, saying that, how can we accept this, that such a thing is happening. For example, female feticide, when they first raised that issue, it was eye-opening for all of us. And it was only after that happened that so much of focus and attention went into those kind of issues, which were not talked about in the closet, or people were not aware of it. And to say that female feticide is a bigger issue in urban India than rural India was a complete eye-opener. I mean, and it just shows how the fabric of our society has been. What I really liked about Satyameva Jayate further was the depth of research that happened. I think it was not superficial saying that feticide is happening, but why is it happening? How did it start? Where does it happen? What are the mindsets that go on, and what are the institutions that work? So it's about saying that I'm at least trying to bring things to a much more in-depth understanding of it, and seeing how can we and what can we do to close it. And the fact that then Amir Khan went around everywhere, Rajasthan and all that, and said that okay, these people will be punished, or those bills will come out, was trying to bring things to a logical conclusion. I think in this country what we need is, I think there are too many issues and you can't solve all the issues at one time, but we should go after one issue and see that there is some kind of a conclusion or closure to it.
Yes, we can implement.
Like feedback.
Yeah,
Story
something about
story.
this have been following up on our site for some time. So, how have you seen the changes? What can be done to make the site look better with content and with the look and feel of the site? What do you have to say on that?
No, I think when I look at the website, See, typically I go through the mailers and read the articles rather than log into the website itself. But I just went through the website I think about 3-4 days back, and I think it's a lot cleaner and you know, it's much easy to navigate, very friendly to the eye, and which is what is required when you're looking at a website. So I think in terms of your design, it's pretty good.
At the industry level, are you working on some leakages?
At an industry level, see, wherever it is our content we do, and wherever the studios have a problem or we have seen some problem happening, we definitely work along with the studios to stop those leakages. But I don't think enough effort is being made in that direction. I don't think so.
Why is that?
I don't know. Possibly.
Well, everybody is making enough money, so no one is money.
I don't know who is making enough money other than a television channel. So television channels are not making enough money. But yeah, but I think there's a lot of potential that we are not being able to exploit. And I think it's not just about making money, but as I said, that every time you are able to unlock good value out of certain elements of the value chain, it becomes easy for you to invest that back in the content, in your business as well. So everything is not about making money, but I'm saying with that, improving quality, improving the entire viewing experience, that is very, very important. So how do you actually ensure that there is enough resource going behind? And you know, we all work on a theory of constraints. So you would want to do so many things, but you are not being able to do it because there is not enough money. The moment money is unlocked, the viewer can get a much better deal out of it.
It's like we're also working on the theory of constraints. We have ideas, but we don't have matter.
Which is why you're putting pressure on.
Yeah.
But sir, how much, like if you have to really talk in terms of money, how much would it go in setting up a channel like Sony Pix or any, channel in your genre, Hollywood movies? Acquiring movies, how is it? How does it all work?
Getting a license
Yeah.
and everything.
Yeah. No, I think there is first of all a license. What you also have to spend money is on the uplink and play out in the satellite space. I'm just giving you cost heads for that expense. You need to set up facilities for your promotions and also for material handling, because you get certain content and they have to be put in the format that you require for that, and for that you also need either tape storage or digital storage. We do digital storage right now, so you need space for that. So those are the kind of investments that you do. Typically what happens is that if you're a part of a large network, these costs get allocated over multiple channels and becomes a little easy to manage. Otherwise, if it's a standalone channel, then a lot of load goes on that because it's getting invested in that. You need your edit machines, your VFX machines and smoke and stuff like that, and graphics machines where you cut your promos and whatever. You need to spend money behind voiceover artists. The biggest cost for us is, of course, content and of course distribution. But I'm saying content, I want to talk a little more about it.
Yeah.
So typically what happens is in our kind of industry, the content rights are not owned by the channel. So typically if you look at say a Hindi GEC, so if there is a Bade Achhe Lagte Hain on Sony, the rights for that would be with Sony. And very typically what happens is that there is the rights are for about a period of 1 year that the studio gives, and for a specified number of exhibitions that you can have. What you do in prime time, in off prime time, that is also determined, and we need to follow those guidelines and those license terms very, very strictly. Hindi movies is slightly different. They get about 5 to 7 years kind of a window. So what happens is that there is a direct association of a movie with a particular channel in the case of a Hindi movie. Whereas the moment it is changing hands every year in an English movie channel, it becomes a challenge to associate a movie with a particular channel. It's a big problem that way. So Spider-Man came on us, will go on some other channel the next year. Men in Black came on us, will go on another channel the next year. So where exactly is a movie available? Also what has happened is that in some ways we have now about 10 channels in this space, and there is only so much of a particular type of movie that works, and basically the kind of movies that work in this country are those which have speed, action, visual appeal, not so much dialogue and drama. That doesn't work in this country, unfortunately. Now, the kind of movies that work are big, familiar, popular, with all these criteria. So, I'm just saying that the scramble is for a limited size of content, which needs to be, sort of played across 8 to 10 channels. Now, that becomes a challenge. So, while you will say Hollywood has so many movies and then there is an opportunity, but what works is maybe just 20% of that. And that 20% is what people are making a scramble for in different channels and networks. So how is one channel different from the other? To a franchise of 23 movies. So there will have to be one person who is doing justice to the whole thing. So the Bond series is there with us for 3 years. So similarly,
is it the first time that they're giving it out for 3 years?
Yes. Yes.
Anywhere in the world.
I don't know about anywhere in the world, but at least in India.
So this 1 year thing is throughout, across
The world.
The world.
Mainly. So what happens is that, again, studios work basis windowing of content. So they typically contract something as the first output. So by the first output, you mean that anything that has gone into the theatre and has to come on television will come for the first time on your channel. So that's a first output deal. Once they move out of the first output window, then second time that it comes on any other channel is called a second output deal. Then the moment it gets out of the second window, they also enter into another deal called the third output deal. And the prices for that is higher than library. So every output deal has their currents. So a first output current, second output current, or a third window of currents, and a certain amount of library that has to be bought. So because of this windowing and to churn this multiple times, they are actually licensing it across 3. Now what happens is that when there are 10 people, for example, or 10 channels or whatever number of channels we have, there is a scramble for content. There have been instances where people have been talking about shorter windows also. So instead of 12 months, people are okay with taking 3 months, 6 months, which becomes very, very difficult, and that's something that very consciously in Sony Pix we don't like to do, because then it's very confusing for the viewer that I saw this here, then I saw it there. So what is happening is that we are very unconsciously, I said as a category, making the channel a blind spot in the overall viewing experience of a person.
How do you generally go about structuring your FPCs? I mean, you just go through your library and definitely you need to plan it out.
There are multiple things that we look at.
Right.
We look at the genre dispersion, for example, and these are certain things that so it can't be completely action skewed, for example, or comedy skewed. It has to be a fair mix. We look at the repeat patterns that are there, how much a title has been rested or not rested. We look at previous viewership data to see, which slot it works for the best, what does not work for the best. Yeah. We look at what is it that we need to give as a consumer proposition beyond just movies in terms of festival, etc. for a particular month. So we will have to pick movies accordingly. So for example, if particular for example, when Hobbit 2 was getting premiered, we aired Hobbit because it made sense.
Yeah.
It helped promote that movie, and since Hobbit 2 is also going to come on our channel, it helped build Hobbit and Hobbit 2 together as a franchise. So stuff like that we consider. when we have to make movie. If it's February, Valentine's Day, then definitely there will be thematic stuff around it.
Right.
So similarly, if Holi is coming, we will try to do something with movies which are slightly colorful, or theme around movies which is slightly colorful. If it's Christmas, movies around Christmas. So those are the various things that you consider in terms of what we should factor in when we lay down the FPC.
And also with the introduction of Naughty Pixie, which is basically you're also driving traction with the audience.
Yeah.
I mean, getting to know what they want to see. At the same time, you have an in-house animated character, which is also deciding what can be shown at this particular time on this slot. So, I mean, how is that
So
working?
Naughty Pixie, the way we had designed it was, again, social media is very, very important for us. And I was just listening to Telechakkar saying that they focus a lot on social media. That's right. There are 9 crore people on Facebook and about 3 crore people on Twitter, and we speak to premium English audiences, possibly 90% overlap with the kind of numbers that we see on social media. So there is a need to engage on social media. But again, when I'm engaging on social media, there has to be certain thing, and I mean, social media is about conversation. So Sony Pix is actually conversing with its viewers by saying whatever it is saying. So if I speak the same way as he speaks or the same way as she speaks, then it makes no fun. So we said that, and we looked at social media pages of all channels in the category and outside. Some had a personality, but when we looked at posts and said that, okay, fine, let's cut the logos out and see, how do they look. We found that everybody was speaking the same language, nearly the same language. Nobody could say that, okay, this is from this channel, this is from that channel, this is from that channel. That's when the thought came to us that how do we differentiate? How do we look a little different? So we said that, okay, fine, our stories will go through the persona of a person called Naughty Pixie. And that's how the character Naughty Pixie came in. So she is an insider who will give you news, the latest news and the gossip with her twist. So that twist also then gels with the kind of things that we are doing around Stay Amazed, because amazement is about wow, cool and twist. That's what we believe. So how do we bring that character over there? Then we said if we have 2 ecosystems, which is one is that screen and one is this screen, and there is enough evidence to say that there is a lot of interactivity which happens between the 2 screens. And I see a lot of youngsters today actually watching and at the same time doing something on social media, talking about what they are doing, and people talk about the movies that they are watching, etc. So we said that if she is a character on social media and she is providing information, let her become a companion on television as well. So we could define a slot with Naughty Pixie's persona, which will be a choice of movies that she likes and the kind of movies that reflect her persona. How it helps is that ordinarily if you would have told people that watch this movie, they would not have watched, or the compelling reason would be only because they like the movie or they don't like the movie. But the moment you've slotted it and packaged it saying that this is Naughty Pixie's choice of movies, and if Naughty Pixie is being loved as a character, then you have 2 things going at the same time. One is the strength of the movie, and secondly the strength of the character, which is creating a distinct slot cross, which then helps differentiate and get the channel associated with a lot of salience with that slot. So that's how the whole idea about bringing in Naughty Pixie came. And we believe that it's the right thing to do. If I look at social media today, and I'm not chasing number of fans, because I think that at some level I think it's just a number. What is important is how well are you engaged with your fans. And the way we have been looking at, and we have very consciously worked on our social media strategy, we have an interaction level of about 12% right now. So about 200,000 people talking about us. the kind of likes, shares, comments that we get on our channel, on our Facebook page is really, really high, and that gives us the encouragement saying that, you know, it does not matter whether you have X million or whatever number of fans. What is important is how are you actively engaging with those fans. So our very conscious strategy is saying that we will not chase numbers, absolute numbers. We will chase engagement both on social media and on Facebook and Twitter. And we try to create interactivities through our television content as well. So anything that we do, we try to create a lot of interest. There is a 15-day activity that happens on social media as a build-up to promoting the property on television. It also gives you a real-time indication of how people are taking or accepting your. It's very powerful that way. I'm saying that when you are in a TAM world, you get to know a week later as to how you've performed. But here the feedback and response mechanisms is almost instantaneous. The important thing is that you have to constantly keep investing and building your brand. Till as long as your brand is healthy, because from a viewer standpoint, he's extremely distracted.
Yeah.
There's so many people trying to talk to you. I mean, how much will you focus on? If you're standing different, if you're doing different things, you will catch his attention sometime, which we have experienced over a period of the last 1.5 years. Very consciously our increases, but we're still not there. We have a long way to go. So it's basically like you are on a treadmill running all the time. You can only run because the moment you stop running, you'll fall down. So you'll have to keep doing new things so that, you know, in some ways it is getting recalled by the viewer. And I can feel it. For example, when in the television industry, I feel about it very strongly in saying that, you know, these are the kind of things that we are doing. But I don't really get too obsessed with which brand of clothes or biscuits is doing what. You know, it does not strike my attention so much. It will strike my attention only when they've done something really different. So that's one of the biggest challenges for us, and that's a journey.
So what kind of ratings do you get for movies? See, because when we were talking to Neeraj, he told us that the ratings, we were talking about international movies dubbed in Hindi, shown on all the channels, Hindi channels, these state movie channels. So he said it's like a surprise element that you give to your audience, because that is surprise for them. So it gets a rating between 0.4 to 0.8. So I mean, you're catering to a very niche audience, if you really.
Not really.
But mostly metros.
We focus on the metros, and we focus on the premium audiences. But our category is also having one big challenge, which is very low time spent. So a lot of people come to the category, but they don't spend enough time. There are various factors for it. One is familiarity, language, culture barriers, etc., which we are trying to build bridges with, and including Hollywood doing that by producing more culture neutral content. And secondly, then we have subtitles, which then helps you navigate through the dialogues much better than what we were doing earlier. The other problem that or challenge that we face is that typically when we look at the kind of people who view a lot of Hollywood content, it's not viewed particularly as families. So what happens is that it will be one or two individuals in the family who would like to watch, and typically youngsters like to watch English movies and all that, you know, in the kind of households that you typically see. And large part of India is single TV household, which is why the viewership peaks for an English movie channel is different from, say, Hindi GC. So when they start coming down is when we see certain viewership spikes happening for our category. So in our category, for example, Men in Black 3 and Spider-Man were in the range of a 0.56 TVR and a 0.48 I remember for Men in Black 3. So that kind of number is at least 4 times higher than what a good quality library title will rate on the channel. So that would be about 0.1, 0.12. So there are two reasons for it. One is that people don't spend enough time on that slot. and in every slot not more than 2% of the overall viewership universe comes. So our time spent, if we have 30 or 35 minutes time spent in a week, is pretty good. Whereas in a Hindi GEC,
That's in a
it's
day,
about
right?
120.
20, yeah.
So 30-35 minutes means average of 4 minutes. It's not that people watch it only for 4 minutes. Some movies they will watch but they will not come back and make an appointment. Even Hindi movies have that issue where it's not that people come back again and again, because it's not the same thing which is playing at 9 p.m. every day. There are different things playing at 9 p.m. every day, and if you like it, that's when you will come. The important thing for us is to create certain promises, slot promises, have certain differentiators on the channel in terms of content, and which is where I believe that this 1 year window makes it very, very challenging, because you don't own it over a period of time. The viewer doesn't know, at least in this case, if anybody has to come and watch Skyfall, they know that they will have to come and watch it only on Sony Pix for the next 3 years. But imagine the moment you give them an option that this year Sony Pix, next year another channel. I'm just saying.
And just to get an understanding, how does the censorship work on television? I mean, is it done by the channel itself, or is it provided to you after it's censored?
So typically, if you have, say, a movie that has been theatrically released,
Right.
you get a certain CBFC certificate with details of the kind of cuts that are there. So from that master, we will cut those parts.
Okay.
In case it was an A certified movie, then we need to only show a U or a UA certified movie.
Right.
So we make cuts basis the guidelines which are there, and then submit it for recertifications.
Okay.
And that's when they say that fine, this is good to go. Not
So it's done by the channel internally,
it is done by the channel.
following the guidelines, and then again centered.
Yes, for recertification, because you can't air A movies on this
Right.
channel. We talked about independence and all that, but actually if you see, large part of the movies are concentrated in the studios. The rule of independence is becoming smaller. Also what was happening is, earlier, none of the studios had a direct presence in India. Till about say 5 years back, very few studios had a direct presence in India. So they were distributing through someone else. Now each studio has a presence in this country. So the moment you have a presence in this country, you are marketing. So for example, when Avengers was launched, UTV Disney, and they were distributing it, they started they had a song composed in Hindi to promote the movie itself. So building that local connect and local relatability is very, very important. To give you a very crude example, I don't know, I somehow find a lot of synergy between content consumption and food habits. They're very similar. I'm saying that you prefer your own kind of food that most people do. I'm saying that not everybody might. But you like the kind of food that you eat in your own country or your own state. Yeah. But at the same time, you want to be experimental with some other content. So for example, when McDonald's came and said that, okay, come start having my burger, it was a Makka Aloo Tikki burger. They had to build some kind of a local connect.
How will digitization change your content strategy?
It will not change our content strategy. Okay, what it will do is, first of all, as a smaller channel, we were not in a position to afford so much of carriage. So it was very difficult for us to get placed and carried in a number of networks. For example, in the 1 million plus towns, Sony Pix was not available earlier. It was only available in the metros because it was very expensive to distribute. Secondly, the kind of frequencies we would get would be UHF kind of stuff. And what is our business about? It's about visual spectacle. So the moment you are placed there, the visual spectacle is lost. So with digitization, we expect that these barriers go away, and that leads to better consumption of the movies. Secondly, what happens is that the pressure on bandwidth gone. You could have special interest channels also coming up. Like for example, so the Times Group has launched a Romedy now. Now, typically English movies are not watched by females. But then somebody is saying that yes, I have a channel for you. So you can create that kind of real estate which is differentiated from your main offering as well. So those are the kind of opportunities that can arise. But you need to get the right scale,
Yeah.
because ultimately.
Love didn't.
Yeah, big city.
Yeah,
But I'm
it was
saying
for
that
women,
The
but
bigger offering also was not
again the
recognized.
important thing is
very important.
you have single TV households and you have bandwidth pressure, so the entire value chain has to move in that way.